What's going on, guys? All right, so let's talk roster creating. So I just want to put out a few things for the roster creators, so you keep these fresh in your head. Um, let's start with create a player. So create a player. A few things you guys are gonna have to remember when creating your rosters is the categories for ratings have been updated and simplified. So all of the rating categories that were there last year in 2K19 and 2K18, possibly 2K17, a lot of these categories are gone and now replaced with some type of badge. So just remember that you're not just going to be able to carry over your old rosters directly into 2K20 as far as like just using the same ratings. You're going to have to adjust your ratings because all the rating categories aren't the same. Also, that probably means you're gonna have to get a little more familiar with badges so you can assign appropriate badges. We'll see. With the stop and go animations for players being different, like if you have a quick guard or a slow methodical guard who doesn't really stop on the dime like that versus a big man who runs slower. Like I think there was 27 movement types for players, so we're gonna have to play around with animations, get familiar with that, so that when we're creating these rosters and or draft classes, guys really feel like the player that we're trying to represent. So let's say, for example, if you're doing a historical draft class, a rookie LeBron is going to feel he needs to have the movement type where he feels a lot more fast than the current LeBron that we have. Anyway, let's move on. Created players, tattoos, you won't be able to do that when you're creating a roster. So we do have the 2K DNA subreddit, which I'm always going to try to plug as much as I can. If you want to create faces, that is a great resource for it. So I suggest you guys check that out. But as far as tattoos, we won't be having access to that. That's a big bummer. Now, if you're on PC, there's a possible workaround for that just by using cyberfaces and creating custom cyberfaces. If you're on console, there's no workaround for that. You will not be able to get tattoos on creative players. All right, moving on. What are some other things that I want to remind roster makers of? One thing is the all-decade teams. This is just my opinion, but I'm not sure how useful they will be. I think that was just a way for 2K to say they added more content to the game. But honestly, unless they have some type of court that has no three-point line, and unless they have era-specific rules in place, there's really no point in playing with the older all-decade teams like the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's no point in playing with those teams because their tendencies and the way those guys played was not catered to the three-point era. So it really makes no sense. Also, the rules were very different for those eras, so it makes no sense to even try to play with those teams with today's rules because you won't be able to if you're putting those teams up against more current decade teams, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. So the league was just different back then. 2K, it appears 2K has no interest at all in adding old school rule sets, and that's their prerogative. This is their business. They can do whatever they want. But it's clear as day, they're not trying to add old school rule sets. They won't even add the era specific filters back from, I believe it was 2K12. 2K12. So yeah, don't expect anything special out of using the older all decade teams. It's really, in my opinion, it will be pointless to use those teams. Moving forward, what I just said? I just said they don't have era specific rules. Yeah, and so as far as the era specific rules thing goes, you got to keep that in mind as far as building older rosters. There's just a lot of rules that you won't be able to replicate as far as 50s, 60s, 70s type basketball. Some rules that have recently been changed, you might be able to change back in my league, like the shot clock after offensive rebound. Let's say you want to play early 2000s basketball. Of course, you're going to want the shot clock to reset at 24 seconds. I think you can change that rule in my league, so you can make accurate 2000s rosters with the rule sets. As far as I know, as far as all the rules I've seen, rule changes that are able to be implemented within my league, as far as I know, you can make pretty good representations of more recent decades, 90s, 2000s. All you gotta do is change some sliders, change some rules, and you'll be good. Try to remember, is there anything else? Oh, okay, yeah. There's a website created by the infamous NY. It's a 2K rosters website. I believe it's 2krosters.com. You guys definitely check that out. That is a great resource to find rosters, as well as post your roster, submit a roster so that it can be shown for others to use. And that's whether you get on PS4 or Xbox, whatever console, and PC also. So definitely check that out. If you do make a good roster, then definitely submit it to that website. I think that's all I got. Oh, Player DNA. Definitely use Player DNA. This year, Player DNA, as far as like the download screen for Player DNA, they've added some necessary features to that. You'll be able to see the most downloaded and I guess your recently downloaded Player DNAs. They're gonna have a way for you to sort through it. You can see how many downloads a certain Player DNA file has gotten. That might give you an idea of if the player is more accurate or not. But yeah, definitely make use of Player DNA if you are making huge roster updates or retro rosters or college rosters, even draft classes. Trying to think of anything else that we need to go over. I think that's about it. These were just tips for you roster makers. So going into 2K20, that was my tips for you roster makers. All right, guys.